Alright, hello. We are here. You may notice that I have a much lower voice register. Actually, let's wait. I bet you nobody's watching as yet. Whoops, is that showing up? Let's not do that. Whew. Alright, well, I'm gonna tweet.
Find the perfect spot for your video in 5 seconds.
Oh, god damn it. I don't need this, YouTube. I really don't need this. Alright, we're gonna restart this video, see if we can get it going without advertisements because I hate them so much. Alright. Tweeting about it now. Waiting for the playlist to end so that I can replay it, hopefully. And there we are. Now we've got music. We have tweeted. Actually, I like this playlist so far. Of the... Oh! Elixion! Hello! It is good to see you. Holy cow, did I get raided? I don't know why I have a bunch of people in my stream, but hello, welcome. Glad to see that there are so many people. Goodness. Well, here we go. So we're right on the verge of a new year. I have 8 games I run a week, and people don't believe me when I say that, but it's true. What we're actually going to do today, let's see. Game 1, we're going to call that Out of the Abyss. And we're going to take everything that I've basically built up so far and kind of erase it. And we're going to do that with the other games as well, because I want to... Oh, shoot. I want to basically do like new year, new game. I'm not going to throw away the things that I've planned so far, but I want to kind of start with a fresh perspective. And we're going to talk about all of my games, where they're at, and what I can do to kind of reinvigorate them, so that they don't just feel like same old, same old. We're going to go into some of the other ones and kind of delete a little bit more carefully, because I think maybe I do need to preserve a little bit. Alright, so let's start with One Day Out of the Abyss. We started with Lost Mines of Phandelver and went into the Out of the Abyss. This is actually my work game that I run as part of the D&D club as I work at a school. And we have a mix of staff and students who are a part of it. We're actually getting a new student joining, so that'll be interesting. It'll be a really good transition time. Story so far. Group unites in Phandalin, saves mines. Angers Fungal Demon Queen and Mind Flayer Hive. Must travel to Underdark to protect mine. Man, I wish my school did D&D, but we barely had a Spanish class. No, I hear that. I try and take D&D clubs to every club, or I'm sorry, every place that I go. I actually didn't do it last year at my old job for a lot of reasons, but one of the big ones is that it was a big COVID year and there really wasn't any ability to do clubs. Plus, I was driving a school bus during the time I would have done a club activity, which sucks for a lot of reasons. Last year was real weird. But the year before last, and for the 2 years before that, I had been running a D&D club for a school that was exclusively middle school boys, and that was an experience. And I like to tell people, when you've run D&D for middle school boys, you can run for anyone. Like, it's just that easy once you've got that rhythm down. Once you can get um, teen boys to listen to a narrative and kind of follow along, like, that's the hardest thing you'll ever have to do. That, and let's just say the religious parents would have thrown a fit. No, I do want to talk about that. It's real funny because I talked to some of the kids in my first D&D club, and they were like, "Hey, Mr. Alvarez, remember when you wouldn't let us be evil, or you wouldn't let us play tiefling characters? It's like, how come you did that? They're not so bad." And I was like, "Listen, I know they weren't that bad, but let's be honest. Like, I wanted to make sure that your parents didn't have any weird misgivings about you playing a character that looked like a Christian devil, or you talking about how your characters were kicking puppies and burning down orphanages, which will happen if you let people play evil characters, especially if they're not, let's say, inured to role playing." Um, Again, I really want to say thank you to all the people who are here. I hope it's not just like a giant bundle of bots. I did not get a notification saying that I was the subject of a raid. Um, so if I did get a raid and did not notice it, thank you to whoever did that. And then for anyone who's in chat, please feel free to follow. Number one, that would be awesome. But also, maybe I should put that towards the end. Maybe you won't like my stream. I don't know. But also, don't be shy. Ask stuff in the chat. I want this to be interactive. Maybe there's a way for me to put a tag that says interactive. That would be a good way to bring people in. Maybe. All right. Um, Recently, group saved Blingden Stone from evil Fidox Oz. Is heading to Sloop Lodop to deal with religious issue there. So let's see. What do we want to do? This is obviously a rhetorical question, but what do we want to do? And when I say we, I mean I. What do we want to do to kind of gussy this up for the new year, to kind of like put a little bit more sparkle in it? Kick it up a notch, if you will. Proper Evil is running a soup kitchen with good intent, but due to poison and disease immunity with a dash of willful ignorance, considering medium rare chicken with wild mushrooms and a nightshade berry sauce a good meal. I mean, Yes, Valexian, I appreciate that nuance because that is what is missing in most characters' evil ambitions. Most characters are like, I'm evil. I'm gonna backstab everything I see. I'm gonna, flay people's pets, and I'm gonna like. I think people get this idea that evil is obvious when it's not. Like the word, like you, evil that's obvious gets stamped out pretty quickly. Generally speaking, you don't generally get to be horrendously evil unless you have a great deal of control. Because when you have the control, no one can stop you. And that's where you get dictators and so on. But real evil, like functional evil, let's call it, is an evil that you can commit without people being able to necessarily do anything about it. And it's everything from passive aggressiveness to laws that limit people's personal freedoms. But that's the headspace of a different pod or different stream.
With King Super's delivery,
God damn it, YouTube.
it's easy to get your special holiday foods brought
Well, I
right
guess
to
I
your
can't
door.
stop you from advertising, but I am going to mute till the advertisement is over. Okay. Anyhow, the point of me saying that, side note, evil characters should be nuanced. Conversation. Most people who play evil characters just don't understand that. They just want to play rampaging psychopaths because they think that's what evil is. And I think that's just a misunderstanding of like what it means to be an evil D&D character. I think that's maybe I should do a stream on that at some point. What it takes to be an evil D&D character. And it's like you almost want to kind of do like a TV show, like I don't want to say Game of Thrones, but something in that kind of avenue to say, hey, if you're gonna be an evil character, like be an evil character, like be an evil character that's interesting. Like I don't even think Ramsay Bolton, for instance, let's just dive into Game of Thrones, was evil, but like too evil. Like that, he was just there for people to hate, and there was really not anything behind. Like there was not anything interesting there. He did it because he could. He did it because he was psychopathic. You have other more interesting evil characters who like, I don't know. There's a lot. Restaurant, we sell vegan burgers. The vegan burgers made of trans. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. This is a whole topic unto itself. I think again, I should do a whole stream just on that. Klaus the Gnome. I don't think Looney is around, but if Looney, if you are here, maybe come back in about 5 or 10 minutes because I'm going to talk about spoiler type stuff for Klaus the Gnome. But let's see if we can't get this figured out relatively easily. Recently, Klaus arranges army to fight evil in dimensional invaders from Shadowfell. Going to see about having a cool boss battle? Question mark? And you know what? I should go back. I didn't really kind of expand on what I wanted to do to gussy up the previous game. But the Monday game, the Monday game, you'll notice I didn't say library or Tamari. The Monday game. Oh no, I better do this quick. Never mind. I'll go back to Monday in a little bit. All right. So I think what we need to do to gussy this up is to be, let's see, be more interesting with characterization. Maybe introduce Feywild interactions. Consider using Feywild adventures to counteract Shadowfell influences. And of course, because I'm streaming and using OBS and so on, it just takes, my keyboard gets too slow for me. Let's see, we gotta scroll up. Okay. Feywild will be really cool to lean on Fey type stories. Whoops, there we go. Okay. Consider reading Witchlight. In fact, that would be a really good place to start. All right. So as I normally do, I'm going to black this out because I just got a notification that Looney, in fact, liked my tweet and retweeted it. So that means it's likely that Looney is watching. So we will keep this secret, and we'll go back to Monday. So Monday, let's see, what do we want to do to gussy it up? New characters. Let's see, so we're in Sloopladop. I don't know if y'all watching have much information on the Forgotten Realms or Out of the Abyss, but I really want to tweak things. Normally, they would go to Sloopladop. They'd basically get to see the Kuo-toa who live there fighting amongst themselves, which that has not changed, but I don't think I'm putting Demogorgon in there. And I don't think I want some demon lord to just pop out and be evil to them. But I want to kind of make this a little bit more nuanced. And you know what I think I'll do? I will not introduce the Ember Temple because I already did that in another game with one of the players. But what I do want to do is have them players will prove one side or the other correct by undertaking a religious pilgrimage. I already feel that I did a typo. Pilgrimage. Maybe I did. Pilgrim. There we go. As proxies. Their failure or success will determine the fate of Sloopladop. All right. Fun dungeon time. Maybe some of the challenges are story-based. So instead of going into a dungeon and fighting monsters and so on, like that will happen, but it will not be exclusively that. I want some of the challenges to be, maybe we'll type that out. Challenges will be personal and require a bit of character exposition. So for instance, they might have to solve a puzzle, but as part of the puzzle, they'll have to say, hey, put something in this box that has specific meaning to you, and we will judge. Like, they won't take the thing, but they'll basically say, we will judge if this meaning is sufficient for our purposes, and then the door will open and you can go to the next part. If someone shows up and they don't have some kind of, trinket or affect, not affect, I guess that's not the right word, but like let's just say they don't have something on their person um, that has kind of deep internal meaning tied to another person, then they don't get to go move on. And that's kind of an interesting, like, obviously, this will be an opportunity for someone to say, yes, I have a letter from my parents, or I have, a ring that, a former love gave to me, and so on and so forth. It's not like they don't, it's not like I'm going to say gotcha for them not having something. It's a great opportunity for them to kind of think on the spot, hey, who is my character? What do they mean? And who is important to them? Could someone get cursed? Absolutely. I mean, curses are a lot of fun. I never try to look at curses as being so terrible that it's just purely a negative thing. Like, curses should be fun. Curses should be interesting. Um, I think I had someone end up being cursed to just speak in the third person, and that was hilarious. I think there were a handful of others. Like I had like a discount bin at a magic shop with rings of protection, and they all had like they were imperfect, so they weren't intentionally cursed. Chaos works well in some cases. Oh yeah, absolutely it does. And by the way, welcome Bob Cake or Bob Cake. I don't know how you would say that, but I hope I'm saying it somewhat correctly. Thank you for being a first-time chatter. And then Darkstar, yes, thank you. Darkstar, you I know, so I'm not gonna introduce myself, but you are absolutely right, Gaius, or Gash, as I guess it's meant to be pronounced. Does work exceptionally well. But as I was mentioning, the magic store had like imperfect rings of protection, like factory seconds, if you will. And one of them made you into an albino. I think another one, gosh, what am I trying to think of? Like another one made you grow a tail, and things like that. Like there were some real interesting curses that were just like, it wasn't someone being a jerk. Hey Looney, it's good to see you. I did your part before you got here, so you don't have to worry about being spoiled. But I think it's better to have things that are cursed, not because someone's being a jerk, but like they just are a part of the world. And I think that's more interesting. What if the magic sword that is meant to defeat the demon lord has a curse? Because that's just part of the story. Maybe the demon lord cursed the magic sword so that nobody would want to wield it. And the curse is something really interesting, like you can never tell a lie. And that's just a really broad example, but like these are things that should be part of the case, because otherwise curses just end up being, lines on a sheet that make your character worse at what they do, and I don't like that. Like a curse shouldn't make you have a strength of 1 if you're a fighter, because then that's not fun. That's not interesting. You're going to spend the entire time trying to get rid of the curse rather than considering ways of living with it. And that's just not cool. Like I don't see the point in giving a curse that's just like, if you give a curse that makes everybody hate you, some people might be willing to roll with that, but by and large, that's just a terrible curse. Anyways, that's my little rant on curses. See, all the Klaus the Gnome stuff, I just wrote a little bit, but it's really interesting. Color of this pen is blue. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about. All right, let's see if we can consult. All right, let's consolidate this real quick. All right, Wednesday, Dawn of Thay. Let's see. So yeah, I had a real big issue in a recent in my Wednesday game, because as I mentioned, I've run games for middle schoolers, but like this is younger than middle school, and the group's real interesting. Hello, Jurassic Rules 123. Welcome to the chat. I'm glad to have you. This is more people I've had chatting in the chat, I think, period ever. So thank you for everybody who's here. Again, if somebody rated me, that's fantastic, and I'm very sorry that I missed the notification for that. I've been looking, but I'm glad to have so many people here. This is fantastic. Um, this is really effing cool. But anyhow, so my Wednesday game, my first Wednesday game, because I have two. Um, and by the way, I don't know if Sajaro is here. Um, I'm gonna look, but I doubt it. Okay, no, Sajaro is not here, nor is Hardmart. But yeah, there's a handful of people who are kind of prominent with streaming. I'm pretty new to D&D. That's fantastic. Um, Jurassic Rules 123. If you have any questions, this is meant to be completely interactive. In fact, there will be a question and answer segment towards the end. But don't let that stop you from asking questions in the meanwhile. I'm just kind of messing around. I've actually gotten pretty caught up with my planning, so I'm kind of doing some messing around right now. But actually, I had initially meant to have this be kind of a shorter stream with all the people here, though. I might have this go on much longer. We shall see. All right. As I was mentioning, though, my first Wednesday game is a bunch of kids, and that's great. There's a certain kind of energy that comes with very young players that's very positive, that's very kind of enriching. But this group of kids, I have made a few characters. That's really cool. Jurassic. I think that's the first phase of getting into D&D is making a bunch of characters. As you really get like your feel. I remember that way back in the day, and I'm talking at this point probably 25 years ago. God, that I would just sit in my room and make characters. I would print out character sheets or do whatever I needed to, or just write on loose leaf paper and just make characters because there was, there weren't enough people to play. I was like overflowing with ideas. It was real fun. I think it was the next best thing to playing, and that's just kind of where you're at. But so the Wednesday game, the group, the kiddos have gotten it in their heads that like evil characters are more cool, and they cited Dragon Prince as their reference point, and like some Disney properties like Loki's more interesting than Thor, and I think that's more of a judgment call, and that's kind of a difficult thing to like really argue. But I think at the end of the day, evil allowed? Question mark. Let's just kind of sum it up there. But at the end of the day, I think they're too young to really understand like what is evil. I think they just see good guys and bad guys, and that's fine. But like, if you were to have a 10-year-old kid play a bad guy, I don't think that they'd really understand the nuances there. Like right now, they're just fighting. They're playing D&D a little bit more like a board game, which is fine. And I see a lot of like, I see a lot of their behaviors kind of inching towards like wanting to win versus wanting to play. And that's really hard to kind of maneuver around, let's say, without being kind of like a finger wagging scold. But I think we'll get there. I think there might have to be some conversations coming up because they're in this phase of like, oh, let me write a background that's going to give me powerful allies, and then those allies are going to be able to help us overwhelm the enemy, and that just seems silly. But we'll get somewhere where it'll all make sense. I was going to eat these candies, but they seem kind of like maybe I want to put them in the freezer, so I'll do that. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. Let's see. So, Sunless Citadel, no original map. Fighting cultists. Jurassic Rules, a Silver Dragonborn Way of the Ascendant Dragon Monk. Sounds fantastic. I'd love to hear how much you enjoyed that character and how that campaign went. I do know that there's a tendency, let's call it a statistical tendency, for like first games to go maybe not so great because everybody's kind of learning. there's a lot of people getting into the hobby these days, and a lot of their first experiences where everybody's new to the game. And so there's a lot of stumbling blocks, but I'm hoping that you got into a game where some people had some experience and it wasn't as awkward, maybe, or maybe everybody was new and maybe it was a great experience. That's also a thing that could happen. I think I'm so guarded of making sure everybody's first experience with D&D is always great, because I hate hearing stories about people who are like, man, we played D&D and nobody knew the rules and everything was dumb and I don't ever want to play it again because I never liked it. His name is Mortar. This was surprisingly on VR last night. I've heard about people playing D&D on VR. That's interesting. I don't know that I'd go for it yet. I feel like I have this like weird distrust of VR, maybe. Oculus Quest. It was on Oculus Quest 2. That's interesting. But I mean, I feel like at some point I'd like to try it. I feel like maybe, I don't know, call me an old man, but I feel like maybe in 5 years it would be really cool to try and play it that way. And I know that right now it's not super exciting. I think there's like these weird. It's not like you're playing a fantasy realm through VR. Like it's not Sword Art Online, obviously. But what it is that you like go into these lobbies of these rooms, and you can look like whatever you want to look like, and like basically sit at a virtual table. So I think that's cool. I think that's very, very interesting. Like my first game of AD&D second ed, that was a nightmare. LOL, you should remember. Evan, were you playing with us and Victor when we were trying to do D&D? Because I remember it was me and Thomas one time playing. Yeah. And that was really funny. That was amusing trying to play that game. And I think I think Victor maybe wasn't ready for us to be us, and was a little bit shocked by some of the tactics that we used. Let's see, I got into a sparring match against a 12-foot tall giant barbarian and 4-foot 4 dwarf barbarian. We also have to fight a water dragon wormling, which for our power level, wormlings aren't that bad, I guess. I don't know. They can be dangerous, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends. Level 1 is a squishy level, which means that you're likely to die if you're not careful. But after level 1, you're pretty all right. My rule, and this has been for a very long time, has been when I run the first game, you basically get to know your character, but you almost always level up after the first game. Spending too much time at level 1 is, oh my goodness. Sorry, I've had see, some of you might be able to tell, some of you not. I've had a cold, so I don't sound like my usual self, but then now I think I got a nosebleed from all of my stupid congestion that I've had recently. I actually don't know if it was a wormling or a dragon. Well, I mean, a wormling is basically a baby dragon. But I get what you're saying. All I can say is that I hope that your dungeon master, or what have you, is fair, I guess. I had 68 hit points. He really cut it down, and we started at level 3. Yeah, it doesn't sound terrible. But I don't know. Again, a lot of it depends on how experienced your dungeon master is, because it's super duper, and I mean really easy, if you're not experienced, to just wreck a party. Dragonels are basically pygmy dragons from Fizbit's treasury. Oh, Dragonel. Yeah. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's all about the experience, and an experienced dungeon master will be fair and fun. There's a lot of conversation about whether or not the game should be a little bit more honest, and like if you wander into a dangerous situation, um, then you should just roll with it. Like, so for instance, if you're a level 1 party and you end up fighting a giant or something, then that you should just, like, the game master shouldn't shepherd people through those situations. They should just let the dice fall. I don't know. That's another question for another stream, I think. But the short answer is that I think you got to just do what's more fun. Like, if you're overwhelming your players all the time, especially if they don't know what they're doing, there's no point in that. Like, the game, I think, is more fun when it's catered to the players and not some big sandboxy situation that relies on the players to be very savvy. Like, that can come later, but if people are new to D&D, they need to have a curated experience. And that sounds maybe more harsh than I mean it to be, but I think it's true. I think you need to have a curated experience, because if not, you won't know what's possible. Like, if you don't think it can, like, if it doesn't seem like fun at first, you'll never feel like it can be fun. And you'll find your own fun. You'll get there. I don't mean that stories should be railroads. Some of you might know what that means. But, like, you should never railroad your players, but you should also never, like, make them feel like the world is too dangerous to explore. I don't know. Again, that's a whole nuanced conversation for another stream, but I'm glad I'm getting all these ideas to do streams. And thank you, Looney. I know I sound a little bit more like myself. But a little bit earlier, I was thinking about how I still have this deep voice. And very easily, I can slip into this more rugged persona. But that ain't me. Alright. Let's see, we actually got to play this game last week. So Wednesday 2, Dreams of Myth and Old Draenor. So we can probably delete some of this business here. But I do, let's see. Yeah, for the future, I want to keep this note, because this is important. Davina will report as a spy to Thay. Thay will become involved with Myth Draenor. And this is the part where it's like Hardmard, Sojaro, I think Steffi B. Don't listen to this part because this is your game, so this is spoilers. But let's see. Time Hunters arrived, affiliated with Selenar, trio of hunters. Okay. Okay, so this is all stuff that I still want to use. Because I must have written this. Oh yeah, we didn't play last week. We played week prior. So I didn't get to use any of this. But we want to still use that. Research Valindra. Oh yeah, I need to do that, and maybe consider bringing in Arabeth. That should be a lot of fun. I haven't done my homework, and so I'm going to have to go back and do this, because this will be interesting. I think if I bring in a little bit more to make Forgotten Realms part of this more prominent, I think I'll be more happy with the result. I've been really prominently bringing in the Netherese Empire into a lot of my Forgotten Realm games, and so I'm really interested to see where this all goes. So there's not much I need to add to this one. See, I want to highlight this though, because this is super interesting to me. I think this is going to be our eventual endgame. So the Archmage is going to, like, the Archmage is someone from a future timeline that is being erased. And he was trying to influence the timeline to make himself more powerful, but he basically just ended up erasing himself, in a manner of speaking. But he's gonna try and tie his essence to the past so that he doesn't just get, like, deleted from history. But it's gonna screw him up, and he's gonna basically be imperfect. I think that'll be super interesting, and I think that'll make for a great villain. He's already an interesting villain, but I think it'll make him more interesting. Thursday game. Sam, don't listen or watch from here. Actually, I don't think Sam's in the chat right now. It's like Octo something. I can't remember. But I don't think I see him. But if you are here, Sam, then this is spoiler territory. I think Sam's the only one who threatened to actually watch the stream out of this group. Let's see. So it's the same. Wingaroths. We'll talk about Wingaroths here in a minute. But the group fought in a temple, or in a tomb, I guess I should say, and fought the creepy Wingaroths with the blood noodles. Daznalov, fiendish warlock with a longsword and shadow blade. He is in fact. I don't know if I ever actually said what Daznalov was going to be. He should probably be. Should not be a Cyclops. Not an Algor. Oh no, that's right, I did. Man, he's a Rahu man, which is kind of sort of uniquely a Palladium fantasy style giant. They're giants with 4 arms, and they're usually very nice, which I think is what makes this interesting. So Daznalov is going to be a Rahu man, fiendish warlock. All right. Cool. So we've got a lot of stuff here. I have a bold idea for this. So anybody who's been following along, my group on Thursdays has been wound up with a bunch of like very deific issues. They have a super mega powerful artifact called the Rune Heart. And the Rune Heart is basically like the most powerful thing that exists right now in the setting. They've also been trucking along with gods and demon lords, and so I feel like they've been kind of going along with a lot of stuff without much payoff. So I'm gonna there was all this whole thing that I was gonna do with the Gakwa saying like, hey, my blood can be used to create rune magic and so on, but I'm gonna change that. I want this to have some immediacy to it, but Gakwa dies, leaves behind a rune cutter. Can destroy rune weapon and items. Oh, you sent? Oh, no, I already read that. Let's see. Only works once. I think that's fair. It's like they shouldn't just be going around destroying rune items and whatnot. But this will give them the opportunity. They can say, hey, should we destroy the rune heart once and for all? If they destroy rune heart, wish is granted, but Zoliad is freed. Could destroy shiggity shoot. What have I been talking about this entire time? So in the Thursday game, the villain is... Man, why am I forgetting about this? No, that's the wrong one. Sorry, I just went from my book. I think I must have skipped it. Never mind, I just remembered it. I was looking for that. Chantico. Could destroy Chantico. Would be fun. Let's see. But I feel bad, but I think I've written myself into a corner. Because I want them to have a big showdown with Chantico. And I feel like it's not going to happen in a way that's satisfying. So let's say this. Likely outcome. Chantico leaves behind a divine essence. Zoliad wants it. Because of course he does. Cultists within the Empire of Nimro will take it and go to Balgor Wastelands. To revive their god as a mortal. Giant. Schism within Nimro Empire, but could be opportunity for peace. Maybe Sunder sends group with giant envoys to stop the process. That should be a lot of fun for future showdown, weird, in ancient Elven Palace, preserved by dimensional anomaly, where Chantico the Mortal, Soliad, and the group will fight. Fourth, let's see. Fourth corner may be a demon lord that owed Chantico one final favor. Maybe Mantis. And Mantis is, I don't know, I think there's like probably some Ars Goetia thing about Mantis being a demon lord, but Mantis is also one of those, like Chantico and Mantis are pretty specific to the Palladium fantasy setting. So if you're not recognizing any of these, that's why. All right, that sounds good for Thursday. Sam, you can watch and listen from this point on if you happen to be catching the replay of this. Friday, Peril and a Bear. All right, new site, locations. Okay, yeah, we didn't play last game, so all of this is still in effect. I don't think I really need to gussy this up. Big thing is that we just need to have all the players there at the same time. Would be nice. Saturday we didn't play last week because it was Christmas, which only made sense. Marluth, so here's just some notes. Sometimes I look at these notes while I'm running the game, so that's what I've been doing. Let's see. Yep, the lieutenant commandant, son of the commandant, is Matt Berry, and the commandant sounds like oh god, the guy who plays Matt Berry's dad on IT Crowd. But anyways, it's all good. Let's see, last week group fought worms in sewer, Oregon Trail style. Okay. So I like it's always weird, and I feel like I always repeat myself. But I introduced an NPC last time that was shockingly glommed onto, let's say. But I can't remember the NPC's name. Basically, I just created I created like this weird 8-foot tall witch, based on like this weird Japanese folklore, and she was like the second hand or the right hand to Nanny Poo Poo, who is like the lead hag of this city out in Chult. This is for the Saturday game, because it's Tomb of Annihilation. And I just thought it was an interesting thing to put in there, but like apparently the group is really interested in this like Lieutenant Witch, and so I might have to like do more with her. Question mark? I don't know. It's all very strange. But let's see. I don't think there's much else really to say about this. I think I need to write a special note. So the Saturday games have grown so much that I think we need a second game, because there's so many people, and especially so many new people, that they kind of get swept up by the campaign. And I'm in a very precarious position where getting a new getting another dungeon master to run Adventurers League is, very difficult. It's been a big struggle since before COVID, when I did have Adventurers League more prominently. And so I need to figure out who I'm going to get for that. That's right. Let me write this down. Let's see, Andra is her name. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Need other DM. And I should probably spend a good chunk of tomorrow doing that. Like maybe I'll set some time to offline do some planning for this, because I need to do homework on Valendra Shadow Mantle and so on. But in addition to that, I need another DM for Saturdays. Here's my dilemma. If there is a newbie group, I should run it. And I hate to be a jerk, but I kind of don't trust. It's like, unless it's someone I really, really know and trust, I don't trust people to run the new group, because I want to make sure their experience is great. But Tomb of Annihilation would be over. And that's the juxtaposition. Like, either I get someone who's really great at running newbie groups, which is a skill all in of itself, or I find someone who's a decent dungeon master to run of the mill Adventurers League, and then I run a new group for new players, and that might just break the format, but that's going to be a big, heavy decision that I'll have to make, and it's no, I don't think anyone's going to be ultimately satisfied unless I just find a really stellar dungeon master, but they don't grow on trees. They certainly don't, and so I think I might be stuck with just having to call the Tomb of Annihilation game quits for a while. So we'll spend some time. The good news is that I have time to spend, but again, the prospect of finding new dungeon masters is so difficult that I don't know what I'm going to do, and the likelihood of just having to put a pause. But I mean, pauses in role-playing games are so difficult to unpause. But putting a pause on Tomb of Annihilation and just going back to more of a, shall we call it, ad hoc format, where returning is just a different game that is completed in one session. But c'est la vie. Okay, Sunday, Monsters Dwell here. So we haven't gotten back to this, also due to the holidays. I think this is, I'm going to just delete all of this for now. It's not, I have this archived in other places, but I want to do something different. And I really want to like reinvent this game because I feel like I'm kind of losing a little bit of my steam for it. And it's been going for the better part of a year, like maybe a year and 2 months. And it's likely to continue going for about another year, if not a little longer. So let's see. Let me think about this. Let me really ponder this one with my noodle. Monsters Dwell here. New world. New challenges. Add in a touch of Planescape. Access to new planes available. Old world moon in danger. Consider adding in aspects of the Blood War. Who's separated the moon to keep his genetic test bed separate. Wanted eventual ultimate weapon against demon incursion, but also resisting making deals with devils. Okay, that's all just right off the top of my head, but I love it. So it adds a further element. If the group decides that they're gonna just kill Uzus, which that's an uphill battle in and of itself, that's going to make things difficult for them because now there's a big portal, or there's like maybe some kind of a weird Swiss cheese mountain. Let's do like what's that story from the Uzumaki guy. Anyways, it's the hole. This hole was made for me, but it's like the side of a mountain, just kind of protrudes demons daily, and so Uzus has to devote like forces to fight it. And he knows that if he was to like try and destroy the mountain, it would just start oozing out demons all over the place. So anyways, he wants to try and find a way to fight the demons. That's why he created the Blood Borrowers, and that's why the Blood Borrowers then they rebelled because they were an imperfect creation, and then they started going crazy with their directive, which was to like make the ultimate life form, which they're on the verge of doing. They're going to create themselves a god, which will be interesting. This is a lot of very weird exposition for my game if you haven't been paying attention the last couple of weeks. But anyways, all you have to know, the Uzumaki guy, Junji Ito. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. Yes, Junji Ito. The whole like this hole was made for me. So you could imagine a whole slide of a mountain and a bunch of holes like that, but they're demon shaped, and so just the only thing, there's no other side where one thing comes in, the other side comes out. There's just the holes in the mountain that leads real deep inside, and then demons come out of each of those holes. And nobody knows when or how, but that's what's going to happen. And so that's been happening for hundreds of years on this new world that the players have never been to. And so like the ultimate evil guy has been fighting against this like demonic incursion for hundreds if not thousands of years, and again created the moon that he sent the moon away to dimensionally kind of separate it so that he could very secretly make this genetic test bed. Maybe he could Enigma of Amargara Fault. Oh man, I love that one. Yeah. I'm glad that you were on hand to remind me of what that was called, because I had no idea. Like my brain was just not functioning. But anyways, so he just wants a secret weapon to fight in the Blood War, which the Blood War is like demons versus devils, has been happening longer than anyone can remember. Let's see, consider maybe introducing Shemeshka as another dubious ally. And all of a sudden, this seems interesting again. Like, I think that vector makes me very interested in like kind of plotting this out. Otherwise, they were just going to show up to this new world and be like, there's the bad guy. We got to do everything in our power to stop him. And that's great, but it's also very linear, and there's not really a lot to do there. This way, maybe they ally with the demons, and they're like, hey, demons, do you want us to help you kill this evil god that has been fighting against you? Maybe you want to take him and use him in the Blood War and just leave us alone. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. I'll let them decide. But at least there's options. At least there's interesting vectors there, and it gives a lot more of a direction to why do the Blood Borrowers exist. They weren't just some flight of fancy. Otherwise, if they just wanted the moon to be like this tomb for the gods, they wouldn't have done that. Of course, you realize that if you don't make the der onomatopoeia as the demons come out of the holes, it's not going to be the same. No, I know, obviously, Looney. I've got to do the der. I love that, like, the reveal is creepy, but it only works that one time. Like, every time after that, it's just funny. Like, you see that, and it just, like, grosses you out, but then you're just like, that's just funny. That's just silly. At least that's my take on it. My favorite was when they took a picture of whatever the creature that comes out the other side, and instead of it was like DDR, DDR, DDR. So like they dressed the creature up and put him on a DDR machine. But anyways, that's silly and neither here nor there. The Wingaroth, we're going to give a proper stat block here in a minute, but before we do, actually, let's just kind of leave this in the rearview mirror for a moment, because I actually want to go ahead and throw us into our D&D and Q&A segment. And I appreciate that there's a lot of people who were listening patiently as I was going through the last bit of my planning. But this is a great segment that I call D&D and Q&A, where you can just ask questions. And I saw that there was a formidable number of people who are hanging out, and I'm very happy to see all of you here. If you have any questions at all, if you're like, hey, why does this god exist in the setting? Or, what's the deal with this spell? Like, this is a great time to ask her. If you want to if you have a question about like any of the games that I run, the fact that I run 8 games, feel free to ask that. Or really anything D&D related. I'm here to answer your questions. Oh, I saw the DDR meme and it ruined the story for me forever because it shows a deformed person is completely destroyed for me, and I laughed my ass off. Yeah, absolutely. Rosé, yo! Oh, Grizzly Might, raiding with a party of 9. Welcome. Ayo. Thank you all. What the? Oh, Nightbot. No, stop, Nightbot. God damn it, Nightbot. My Nightbot is like hypersensitive, so I'm sorry. I apologize. Hey, Rin Sky, thank you so much for coming and watching. Honestly, I think there's more people here than have been here like the entirety of the time I've been streaming this. No caps and no emotes. Yeah, I gotta figure out Nightbot. Come on, Nightbot. Anyways, sorry about that unpleasantness. But yeah, we are in the portion of the stream called Dungeons and Dragons and Questions and Answers. So if anybody has a question, some of you have been listening to me plan my let's see, I can already say you deserve more viewers. Thank you. Damn. Let's go. Thank you, Rosé. Rosé? I'll say that right at some point. Yeah, I will fix this moderation. But while I'm fixing it, should I make a goblin rogue with kleptomania? I mean, if you've never played a goblin rogue with kleptomania, like, you should try it at least once. There was a thread on Twitter about how someone spends their time in their apartment like creeping around with like a stooped back, and they have a big sack and they'll start grabbing things and putting it in the sack and saying things like, I'll be having this. And apparently their neighbors overheard it, and they were like, there were weird noises coming from your apartment, like, we're not sure what's going on over there. And so like someone responded with like, no, this is a real thing. It's like a whole movement, Goblin Core. Like, you just pretend to be a goblin. And so like that tweet took off. But like, I think about that all the time. So yeah, be a goblin. Like, if life gives you the option to be a goblin, be a goblin. Not just in D&D. All right. Commands, custom. Sorry, and I'm still trying to get my Nightbot to calm the fuck down. But I'm new to this. Somebody was getting me into D&D today and saw the whole collection on the website is 885. Should I even bother getting one bundle? Grizzly might. Let me ask you this: are you running the game, or are you playing? Like, are you being the dungeon master, or are you just being a player? You want to play? Seriously, all you really need is you probably just need the player's handbook. Planning on running my own games down the line, yeah. Let me put it to you this way: if you plan on running the game, you need the player's handbook, which is $30 or $20 on a good sale. Honestly, all you need. Especially if you're jumping into a campaign with someone who's bought all the books like I have. They will invite you to the campaign, and if they subscribe, again, like I do, you will have access to everything. But honestly, you really just need the player's guide. And if you absolutely need access to stuff, like I can help you with that too, because nobody should not have access to like make a character. There's some nuances with like getting more books, but like to be honest, if you really want to be, let's see, I'm in 2 campaigns concurrently, Druid and Cleric. Oh, that's cool. By the way, hello Chaos Kai. It's good to have you in chat. But yeah, like if you really wanted to go all out and get all of the books that are like player centric, you might spend $100 most if you really wanted to. I wish I still had them, but like the D&D Essentials kit has a 30% off coupon for, and I gave them out because I wanted more people to have that. But it has a 50% off coupon for the Player's Handbook. If I had thought about it, I would have saved it for people in my chat. But like y'all, seriously, it's the first time I've had people in my chat, so that's cool. But yeah, you like absolutely don't. If you're gonna run the game, if you're gonna be a dungeon master, you probably want the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual. You really don't need the Dungeon Master's Guide. It's nice to have, but it's not super necessary. So let's say you have a Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, and probably like a campaign book. For instance, earlier I was talking about yeah, and I'm just talking about like this is the kind of monetary commitment that you might have to do if you were going to run the game. So it's like what I'm trying to demystify, because like you could spend money on everything there is, like I do, and I've been foolishly buying books twice because they have super fancy covers. So I buy the fancy cover and then I buy the normal cover. It gets a little out of control, but Out of the Abyss is a fantastic adventure. Let's say you buy the Player's Handbook, you buy the Monster Manual, and you buy Out of the Abyss, and that will give you everything you need to run that campaign. Generally speaking, and then you should have no problem. And that's right there. If it's not running a sale, that will cost you like $90, which is a lot. But like that's, if you buy it piecemeal, it's not terrible. And you don't honestly even have to buy the Monster Manual. The stuff they give you for free on that site is great. So like, let's just say you spend $60 because you do Out of the Abyss and the Player's Handbook. So I mean, really, that's all you absolutely need. The Monster Manual, like buying the Monster Manual versus the free stuff gives you like 50 monsters, so it's not super great. But if you're a completionist like I am, and I keep talking about that, like me, then you buy everything, and you spend lots and lots of money. But you don't have to. You absolutely. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure this whole Nightbot thing out. But meanwhile, y'all, any other questions so far? I guess let's kind of codify what was asked. Be a goblin? Yes. But yeah, any other questions y'all got, please? Buy a bundle? Not necessary, but nice. Very expensive. Let's see. Yeah, well, I'd be down to watch some of your sessions. I do, let's see. I'm gonna just link it right now because it's like I used to stream my games. And I might have gotten like 8 people to watch. Like if I put all of the people who ever watch my streams in a room, like I might fill a dinner table and have room left over. But I don't know. I've been thinking about going back to streaming my games, but I'd have to figure out which of my games to stream. What's a good starter class for beginners? Fighter. I hate telling people. It's like a good starter class fighter, but follow your heart. So it's a double-edged sword, and forgive me for the pun, but the truth is, it's like you should play whatever you want to play. So, in all honesty, like if you want to play a druid, play a druid. If you want to play a wizard, play a wizard. But if your concern really is like I'm nervous about this being too complicated, and I hate to say this, it's like fighter. Play fighter, play rogue, play barbarian. Barbarian's good. It's like maybe a step up in complexity because there's a little bit more to worry about depending on the subclass you pick. But fighter's so easy. But at the same time, like if your enjoyment is going to be derived from like what you are, and fighter sounds bland, like don't go with fighter. But if you just want to give the game a shot, and if you want to see what it's about, play fighter. I guess that's real weird and nuanced and maybe not super helpful. But that being said, I mean, I hope that's useful. I hope that's good for you to hear because, I want people to try and be what they are. Maybe, let's see, would you say playing a different races would have a large impact on the campaign? That's a really interesting question, actually. I did want to sew up one more thing about the question you asked. Is like, follow your heart. Complexity is not as tough to overcome if you are playing with helpful, experienced players. And I put in that helpful because I've played with a lot of people who are very experienced with role-playing games that are not helpful. And that doesn't help anyone. Like, I know that sounds tautological, but I've seen people who are like, oh yeah, I've been playing this game for 30 years. And it's like, well, would you help Jack over there with his character? And he's like, no, you can figure it out just like I did. And it's like, well, that's not super great, my friend. Why don't you sit closer to me so that I can make sure that you're not flubbing your rolls? Anyways, to your next question, would you say playing very different races would have a large impact on the campaign? In fact, let's just copy and paste this response if I can, because I'm lazy. And I guess it would behoove me to change the font on that. And this is obnoxious, but we're going to do that. Okay. But anyways, to that question, this is going to sound like a non-answer, but it depends on the campaign. And what do I mean by that? Well, so my handle is Elven Wizard King, and I took that because I played in a game where everybody played an elf, and they were all siblings. So like we were all siblings from the same dad, I think different moms, because our father was the king, and this was actually in the Pathfinder setting. So we were like royal scions of the kingdom of Keonin fighting against like the demonic incursion led by Black Razor, Tree Razor, sorry. And so that was really interesting because we all played elves, and that on the surface that sounds really boring, but I think we found a lot of very interesting kind of opportunities to bounce off of each other because we were siblings. We didn't have the opportunity to be like, well, my character wouldn't, because no, our characters were very specifically like born and raised into this environment of like, we have to stop the demons, we have to do something about this, and so like even if we were to rebel against that, it was still towards the same end. It was still like part and parcel of the same story. And so I think that was very interesting. To the point of like, how did I become the Elven Wizard King? I was the Elven Wizard Prince because I was born and became a wizard, and our father, the king, abdicated, and nobody wanted to be the king. Like nobody wanted to lead in his footsteps. Nobody was like jumping at the chance, except for my sister, Vierith, I think was her name. Um, Vanya. No, I remember now. Her name was Vanya. So my sister Vanya in the game, of course, wanted very badly to be queen. And she was an adherent to the elven goddess of like being fickle and hedonistic or something. I can't remember the name, and that's just because my brain's not working normally. I'm better with this. But anyways, she lived her life like a fickle hedonist, and when she threw in her hat for being queen, that was when Laura Thorne, my character, decided, no, I'm going to be king. And everyone voted out of our siblings, and they voted for me almost unanimously. And so I became the Elven Wizard King. But that being the case, I think it just depends. My Sunday game, I specifically said no humans, no elves, no gnomes, nor dwarves, and no halflings. I wanted everyone to like come out of their comfort zones, and I think that led to some interesting role play. But it depends on the game, and I think if you're playing like normal stock D&D, then maybe sticking to the familiar is great. But like once you've got some experience under your belt, like play a tiefling, play a lizard folk, play like something that's interesting. And by and large, I don't think that it should ever limit you to. You should never feel limited. Like you should play a human or you should play this or that. Anyways, that's just my opinion. Like try new things out. I do. I've played so many characters over the years, even though I'm mostly a dungeon master. I've played so many characters that I want to try different things as often as possible. That being said, most of my characters are human or elves, so who am I to say? But yeah, I am still not sure how to mess with this stupid. I need to really like do some kind of a Nightbot course. Oh yeah, and let's see. I was actually going to I was going to link one of my gaming sessions in the chat, and my computer's being a real butt about it. But if anybody, while I'm grappling with two things at once, if anybody has any other questions, now is a good time to ask. Again, have you ever wondered like why does the D12 never get used? What's the deal with that big floppy hat the wizards wear? Actually, I don't know the answers to those, so don't ask that. Oh shoot, I need to go back and re-upload some stuff from Twitch, or it's going to be deleted forever. Let's see. I gotta go sleep, though. I appreciate you answering some new questions. Well, thank you, Grizzly Mite. I'm really glad that you stopped by. And if you ever have any questions, I can be reached on Twitch at Elven Wizard King, just like my name on everything. I've tried to make it pretty box standard so that it's always easy to find me. But also, I will hopefully be doing this. Like I've been a little bit better about doing this regularly, but I want to stream every Monday, generally from about 7:30 Mountain Standard, for about an hour or two. And okay, I'll add you on the website. Yeah, absolutely. And again, if you have not followed, and that applies to everybody listening, if you've not followed me, please follow me. And I'd be happy to have you come back as I do more of this. I also do some video game streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've been doing Final Fantasy V. Stuff I should talk about at the end, but I'm just going to throw that in right now. But Grizzly, thank you again. We will see you later. I'm also going to throw in, hopefully, let's see, War Drums, Cursed Fan. Actually, let's see. Man, I can't believe I'm going back over some of these. I can't believe I actually have some of these old recordings from some of the earliest games. I'll figure out how to add you. Yeah, no rush and no worries, Grizzly. I'm super happy that you were able to show up and ask a bunch of questions. You are tops in my books. Link copied the key to clipboard. Okay, so if anybody's interested, you can watch like an example of our of the games that I run here. I want to say that was episode 1, but like I think episode 1 might have gotten lost. I can not accurately remember. But there we are. If anybody else has questions, please ask. I'm here to answer. Let's see. I'm just gonna go ahead and close that. So apologies. Don't talk in all caps because Nightbot will get mad, and I need to dial Nightbot's Karen back. Yeah, Looney, please. You are my number one question asker, so please. And for that matter, I may not make it look especially graceful, but I am good at multitasking. So if other people have questions, please ask. Sorry, weird formatting bugs me out. Okay, so are there creatures in D&D that are so good and pure that slaying them might curse the perpetrator? Because I see that trope go around a bit in fantasy settings. I think that might have been a thing in older campaigns. Let's just say, are there creatures so good and pure they curse ones who kill them? Question mark. I mean, I would definitely say going back to like the first and second editions of Dungeons and Dragons, that yeah, absolutely, you'd kill a unicorn and that would be like a bad mark on you. And there wasn't an elegant solution to that. Like a god might strike your character dead, and that just doesn't sound interesting. But there, it was all fire and brimstone back then, and dungeon masters had the ability to just smite you on the spot if they wanted to, which a lot of them did, and that wasn't fun either. I'd rather go for the interesting. But let's say for the current edition, no. There are not creatures that are like so good and pure that if you kill them, there's some kind of like a magical reinforced thing. And I think that kind of cleaves to the game's current view set on autonomy. It's like you should be able to try and do that, and consequences shouldn't be like magically reinforced immediately. So for instance, if you kill a unicorn, you might be shunned by the community that the unicorn used to protect. And that's a different kind of enforcement, and I think that's more interesting. Maybe the person you were going to get the next bit of information on your quest was like, that unicorn's caretaker, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to tell you the information anymore. And that just makes the quest that much more difficult. That's a consequence. But one thing I want to point out is like older editions, yes. Current, no. Most consequences in current edition are narrative and not magically reinforced. So it's not in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, although I think it should be. But there is a creature called a Linorm. And Linorms are, like, you could think of them as more of a Scandinavian dragon. Like, you could imagine something that, like the Midgard Serpent is the most extreme version of it. Or you might, like Fafnir, or whatever the dragon was that Beowulf killed, or whatever, or that killed him. Anyways, the idea of a Linorm is like ancient draconic creatures that deliver death curses. Only in Pathfinder. Oops. And I don't know if I can do justice to explaining what is Pathfinder if you don't know what Pathfinder is, but the easiest way to describe Pathfinder is like if I mean, yeah, let's just go with it. If Dungeons and Dragons is Coca-Cola, then Pathfinder is Pepsi. It's far more nuanced than that, but that's the easy answer. Or like if BioWare was Dungeons and Dragons, then Black Isle would, I don't know. It's a super weird question, but anyways, Delvier, Deliver, Draconic. Gosh, I'm making a lot of sloppy mistakes. So, but yeah, there's Linorms who that like they just are meant to deliver death curses because they're just so prominent and powerful that their death, their last breath is dedicated to like cursing whoever killed them. And that means that like they're meant to be the death of whatever like hero rises to slay them, and I think that's interesting. You don't see enough of that kind of thing, and I think it'd be interesting to kind of to weave those things in. But if we go back to the unicorn example, like the gods might get involved. Like the unicorns are slated in this edition as being celestial, and so if you kill one, it might get the interest of the gods. It might get the interest of the archangels, and they might be like, "Hey, we need some recompense because you killed that unicorn, and now we're going to deal some good old-fashioned lawful good justice on you, and take a life for a life." or take something from you that is precious, just like you took something from us that was precious. Because let's face it, lawful good is that way too. But these are just ideas. There's nothing in the game that is codified as you kill this super sweet animal and a bad thing happens to you. Although that's interesting. Maybe we need more of that. Maybe that does need to be a thing. But that being said, the game has veered much further away from what used to be called murder hoboism, groups that were tethered to nothing and interested only in killing and looting. That's kind of a thing of the past, actually. Now that the game has veered away from giving experience from killing monsters, the game has also veered away from just that being part of the narrative. And that was a 3rd edition thing. People think it was 2nd edition, but it was not. At least, no, sorry, I take that back. That was a 2nd edition thing. But no, 1st edition Dungeons and Dragons. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. If they know, I'm kind of having a rough time remembering. The oldest editions of Dungeons and Dragons gave you experience not for killing monsters, but for looting. So you were actually de-incentivized. Well, you were discouraged from fighting, but you were encouraged to loot. And then that turned into giving experience for killing monsters, which incentivized killing. And so I think we've come a long way. I think it's better now. And there's no incentive to become rich necessarily. There's no incentive to slay things necessarily. And it was always kind of let's call it a detriment that Dungeon Master would have to weave the narrative around killing things. Like it still is that way, but it's not as necessary. Like there was a lot more fiddling with, I should put something in that will make them level up. Or I should throw in this combat with like 40 orcs because they need more experience. I mean, I think it's just, I don't know, it's different. It's not a lot different, but it's different enough. You killed the Lomito and therefore you are now cursed to have fantasy John Wick pursue you for as long as you live. See, that's interesting. I like that. Okay, let's see. We're at the hour and 37-minute mark. I think we've got quite a bit of time left on this if y'all want to continue. Any other questions? If we're short on questions, I can move on to the part I was going to do next, which is write up a proper stat block for the Wingeloths. If you wanna, I got one more. Yeah, please do. And again, this is open to anybody. If anybody has questions about games that I run, if anybody's like, how do you run 8 games a week? And I'll say very carefully, now is a good time to ask such questions. Let's see. So this thing should not have a lot of hit points. What did we figure out? Hit points 2, so yeah, it'd be like 1d4. Yeah, just 1d4. Armor class 14. Speed. We'll call it 20 feet. No, 5 feet. let's see. So I'm just editing on the fly as you ask your questions. So no worries. So we're looking at a strength of 2, which translates into a -4. A dex of, let's just say 18 sounds appropriate. So let's say one of your player characters starts getting a tad OP and it runs the risk of upending the entire thing. What's the best way of cutting the player character down to size gently without, dicking over the player? That's really nuanced, and I don't know that I have a great answer to that. Usually it's a conversation, and those conversations rarely go well, unfortunately, because usually someone wants to play a game, and this is a game, but like the way that they want to win is that they want to be hyper competitive. And I've had conversations with people about this before, but like the at the end of the day, what I see is people coming in from hyper competitive backgrounds, like Magic players or board gamers, or people who play a lot of Catan. And ultimately, the idea is they want to come in and dominate. They want to feel like they are Billy Badass, and there's room in the game for that. You shouldn't have to game the system to feel like a badass. Like, my purpose is to make you feel like a badass automatically. And I'm more interested in you feeling like a badass if you do something creative and interesting versus finding a template online that will make your D&D experience like unbeatable. So I've had people in other games be like, hey, I want to bring this character into your campaign, or I want to play this character in this game you're proposing. Is this okay? And long story short, like, the character was like complete, just utter nonsense of like, I'm just going to be the most powerful thing out the gate. And I said, no, like, you need to dial this back a little bit and not be as powerful. Like, I see these choices you made, and like, if I was to make things challenging for you, they wouldn't be challenging for other people. You need to dial it back. And they're like, well, it's part of my backstory. I'm like, what's your backstory? And they had this like tissue thin reason to want to do the thing that made them super powerful. And I said, well, okay, how about, instead of, like, basically I gave them another vector. I said, how about you represent your background in this other way that's not superpowered? And they said, well, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, then you don't get to play in my game. And that was an unpleasant conversation, and I knew that they played games, so I wasn't like turning them away from something they would never do again. They just wouldn't do it at my table. If this was a brand new player, I might have a conversation with them about, like, it's very rarely a new player, but if it was a new player, I'd have a conversation with them and be a lot more frank and a lot more understanding and say, hey, like, I see what you're doing. You might have watched some YouTube videos, and God, let me tell you, the state of YouTube right now with Dungeons and Dragons is actually really awful, because there's a lot of optimization going on, and I don't like it. I hate it. I hate watching videos, and they're all recommended to me because I'm a nerd that plays Dungeons and Dragons. But all of these videos are like, you can't use this option because it's a false option and it makes the game, like, you're doing less damage and you're not contributing to the combat of the... No, shut up and let people play their suboptimal builds, because fuck you. Because the game's not meant to be that difficult, because a group of level 15 characters can take down the Tarrasque if they wanted to without optimizing their characters. Why the fuck do you think you need to optimize this game? It's not a war game. It's not Warhammer. Don't fucking do it. But sure enough, there's people on YouTube being like, you should ban this bad spell because it doesn't do 80 damage over the course of 10 rounds. Fuck you, and sit down and let people play their game, because I hate you so much. Like, I can't express how livid I am at people who like optimize the game, because fuck that. And I might have to have a conversation with one of my players and do a character sheet audit, because lo and behold, he doesn't have his character sheet in a place that I can see it. And he's just being like super optimized about everything. And I think I have to have a conversation with him about why he made a character that's less interesting and more powerful. And that's unfortunate. But it's never fun, at least not for me. It's never easy. Let's see, it didn't even to do about OP players. Talk about it. Curb those tendencies. But I think I am going to have to bring it up and say, hey, you know that I'm tacking on an extra 300 hit points to these boss encounters just because you're you. And I might have to take some magic items away, because it's a build. It's a build that this character has made. It's not like an interesting character with like some interesting character choices on their character sheet. It's a build. It's like, I can guarantee you that somewhere out there, someone made this character and he's copying it down because it is like de facto the most effective thing in that realm. And it's really obnoxious. Like, yeah, great, you found a way to be super duper effective, but like, play a character, goddammit. Be interesting. Don't be a winner, because that's not what the game's asking for. Note to self, never do min-maxing in order to avoid ending up sleeping on the couch. Listen, I think we've gotten to a point, and this is just generally speaking, we've gotten to a point where there's ways to min-max at other games. Like, I'm having so much fun playing Monster Hunter and just like learning the great ways to like brutalize monsters. You know, I've done that in games before. I've played games where it's like you can tweak little bits and pieces here and there to be an unstoppable monster, and that is fun. But everybody has to be playing the same game, and that's not what this is. Like, go play Magic the Gathering, go play Warhammer 40k, go play, you know, Monster Hunter, and just dominate. Because yes, if you go into those games and are awesome, you're helping other people do the same thing, or you're, you know, being in a competitive environment where everybody knows that. But in Dungeons and Dragons, it's not necessary. It kind of used to be, but it's not anymore. And it's ridiculous. And it's like, when you're savvy enough to know the tricks to do that, and other people aren't, or other people just want, talk about it, not about it. When other people aren't, or they're there for a different reason, it's not fun. And to be completely honest, I don't think I would ever run a game like that, where that was the only purpose. Because at the end of the day, I'm not there to fine tune a machine to kill you, because if I want to kill you, I'll kill you. Like, if I wanted to run a game that was super lethal, like, it doesn't matter what choices you would make. It'd be a really good chance that you'd just die. And it wouldn't be about making optimal characters, because you can make optimal characters from here to the sky. They'll eventually get crushed. I don't know. We'll figure it out. LOL, I don't have to. It just happens in my games. I mean, there's a difference, and like sometimes you stumble into like a really good combo, and I like rewarding that. But it's such a huge difference from seeing someone who just like picks an interesting combination, or like just plays a paladin or plays a rogue. Paladins or rogues are meant to be like really cool, because every so often you'll get a critical hit and you're gonna feel like a boss, and that's the point of those characters. They feel awesome when they work, and they'll do a lot of things when they don't. Like, you don't have to crit to be a great rogue, but it feels amazing when you do. But it's a difference between being a rogue like that, or being like some super specific rogue build that can't be touched. Like, the point of a rogue is to do damage. The point of a rogue is not to be like a super tank that can't be touched, or I don't know. I'm getting into this whole tangent, but like the idea is there. When you're tweaking the game on purpose, that I can tell. Number one, I'm familiar enough with it, and number two, it's like it's just not interesting. It's not fun. But I don't know. I think I feel like I've gone on and on about that, but it's certainly a tender subject for me. Any other questions from anyone else? Definitely, it's a Q&A. It's time to ask questions. As you can tell, I definitely have opinions about stuff, and I'm experienced. What can I say? I've been at this a long time. I may not have all the answers, but I like to at least try and give a valid opinion. Um, let's see. What do we got? What do we got? Let's see, Constitution of 10, which is a +0. Oh. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm reading these liner notes here. But as you can tell, like, I can write stats, and it just looks like a big jumble of text. I want to be able to do this. Let me see if I can bring this down just a skosh. I want to be able to do this. So let's do this. I only had 2 in my sling today, love. Sorry, it's all right. We had an embarrassment of riches with all kinds of people showing up today, and I'm very happy. I'm going to remind people to follow me if you're interested. I do this every Monday. I'm going to try and keep to a schedule and make sure to do it at a regular time and a regular interval, and we'll hopefully see a lot of you coming back. That would be my hope. 1, 8, and 2. So I've internalized a lot of the bonuses, so I can do them like kind of on the fly. Although I feel like this is no. The formatting here seems weird, but we'll ignore that. So, in the absence of any questions, I'm going to talk about the Wingeroth. Don't worry about any of this stuff because this is like pre-generated, so it's going to look weird. Let's see, I don't need condition immunities as such. It's not. Let's see, resistant. Actually, yeah. Senses. So Wingeroths are basically like weird, like reminiscent of Minox from Star Wars, which weirdly I think were also like a Lovecraft thing. But as I mentioned last week, in place of a mouth, like imagine a vampire, or imagine a bat, like just a normal bat, but in place of a mouth, it has 2 tentacles with like fangs at the end of them, and it will sink its fang into you, pull the fang out, release a special coagulant that will turn your blood into like a string, and it will keep that string as a tether that it will then use to suck your life force out. Like it'll actually like drain your soul out of that tether, and it will attempt to use both of its fangs. So it might be tethered to 2 different people. But that's why we called the last session Dragon Dicks and Blood Noodles. The Dragon Dicks thing was a different thing, which I can go into more detail if someone wants to ask me, but I doubt anybody cares about that. Wisdom, actually, passive perception 9. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not super. Let's see. Okay. The Wingaroth does not provoke opportunity attacks from its flying movement. Languages. See, is this an M dash? We'll fake it for now. But the idea would be that you'd be fighting a bunch of these things at once. I might actually have to do a doodle for these things because I don't think there's a picture that'll do them justice. But we'll do a doodle, and I'll make it suitably creepy. Flyby attack. I think that's really all that it needs. So the great thing is that these things would attack in a swarm, but it doesn't need to be a swarm, just like Sturges. And oh yeah, and then damage vulnerability. Oops. So it'll have damage vulnerability fire, just to give it something like, hey, if you know how to deal with these things, it'll make it easier. We'll make them challenge. I think 1/8. No, I think 1/4 is the lowest. Could be wrong. I'll double check. But I think 1/4 still feels right. And that should make them 50 experience, because 1/2 is 100 and 1 is 200. Yep, that sounds right. And then actions. Blood tether. So melee weapon attack. +6 to hit. Reach 0 feet. Same space. So it has to enter the space of a creature to be able to bite it. 1 target hit. 1d4. I guess. Can't really go against this, so it will be 6 points of damage on average. Piercing damage, and the Wingaroth creates. Dracula takes a look at them Cthulhu bats and goes, "No, you know what? Just no. I might have summoned a fronts to God in my world, conquering madness, but this is a bit much. Even I find this fucked up." See, my favorite thing about the Wingaroths is that everybody was creeped the fuck out by blood noodles. Blood noodles made everybody roast out, and I was actually gonna maybe pull back a little bit because I was worried maybe I was super grossing out one of my players. But just the idea of your blood turned into a big old string and them draining your soul out of it, I got some reactions, and that's generally what I'm in for. I'd rather make a weak monster that makes you think or worry or nervous than a strong monster that does. Let's see, it creates a tether made from your blood. That can extend up to 100 feet. This tether has 12 AC and 1 hit point. Severing tether has a 50% chance of causing a feedback that will damage both the creatures attached to the tether, dealing 2d6 necrotic damage to both. That's kind of, I'm saying more than I wanted to. That will dealing, yeah. So then we're going to say let's see, and anybody who wants to, feel free to continue asking me questions. Bonus actions. Oops. No. There we go. Life drain. The Wingaroth automatically deals 7 damage to a creature was tethered to it at the start of its turn. That way it needs to wait until after the tether has happened. But if it's tethered to 2 people, let's see, it can recover that very easily. Let's see, did we say it only had 2 hit points itself? Yep, 2 hit points. And then let's do this again. Reaction. Blood feast. Oh yeah. So this is where it gets kind of interesting. Like, up until this point, this is basically just a reflavored Sturge that does necrotic damage. And of course the visual for it is really gross. But here's an interesting little complication. So I like how, like, if you read through this like wall of gross text, it's just all not terribly well put. Let's go ahead and oops, copy. So we're just gonna paste that in here. When a Wingaroth in an adjacent 5-foot space square is reduced to 0 hit points, other Wingaroths can use their reactions to fly to and consume that Wingaroth. Each of those Wingaroths gains 15 temporary hit points. Increases from tiny to small. And deals 2d4 plus 4. So what does that come out to? 9 damage with each bite. They also deal an additional 3d6 necrotic. No. Take damage with each life drain to each valid target. Okay. As a Thoth awakens from his eternal slumber, and he's like, blood noodles? Man, that's just messed up. What the hell, dude? Hey, Nyarlathotep, tell him how messed up this shit is. Word, dog. What the hell? I just imagined that concept and got the shivers. See, I'm glad that this is getting the reaction that it's getting, because that's exactly what I want. But as you can see here, it's like they're really weak. They're not much to talk about. They are damage resistant, which shouldn't make a big difference because you can kill them with one hit, generally speaking, even if you're just wielding a club. Like, let's pretend you have a strength of 10 and you wield a club. You've got about a 25% chance, if you hit, to just kill it outright. If you're stronger than that, then it's automatic. Where it gets interesting, let's see. Where it gets interesting is this Blood Feast. So let's say one of them goes down. Now every Wingaroth that was in the adjacent square, let's see. Let's actually restate that. Within. Yeah, this is easy, a lot more well stated. So basically, any Wingaroth within 5 feet can come in, eat its fellow, and grow bigger. And the growth doesn't mean or do anything. It's just for visual effect. But like now, all of a sudden, they probably have 17 hit points, and all of a sudden, it's going to be a little harder to beat them off. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It'll be a lot harder to defeat them than it initially was. And they'll get more chances to blood noodle their way through. The Wingaroth gains temporary hit points equal to half the damage. Don't. No, I don't like that actually. No. Because that kind of goes in the face of this. Can't stack temp hit points. Don't know what to tell you. But we're not going to muddy this up by doing that. But yeah, so at first you're like, oh crap, creepy bats, and then you hit one, and then all of a sudden all of the ones next to it become plumper creepy bats, and all of a sudden you've got a problem on your hand. Now all of this could be solved with one well-placed burning hands, and you'll take a bunch of them out, or like a really well-placed fireball. But until you do that, it'll be really creepy real fast. Hey, look, red silly string. Boy, this must have been a fun party, and what the fuck? To be continued. And then roundabout plays. But yeah, there we go. This is a much better, much more streamlined look into our little Wingaroth friends. I'm going to have to like draw a doodle on a sticky note or something. I think that'll be fun. But all right. I think that kind of shows us up for tonight. That was some good planning. I got a really awesome idea for my Sunday game, thanks to y'all. Hopefully, we've gotten some good stuff. I'm gonna rewrite the Wingaroth dagger because I think I like that idea. And basically, you can create a tether too. But yeah, that's suitably creepy, and you'd have to be kind of a messed up character to want to use the Wingaroth dagger. But hey, if you want to be a goblin with a Wingaroth dagger, and all of a sudden you're creating blood noodles of your own. That's a blood noodle of a different color, my friend. But all right, there we go. That is awesome. That is wonderful. If there's any last minute questions from people who maybe have not spoken up in chat, please let me know. If hopefully you have enjoyed um, hearing me go on and on about my 8 campaigns. Hopefully this is a cool thing for you to be at. Again, this has been fantastic because I've never had this many people on my stream before. But thank you for being here, and yeah, I will be here next week on Monday doing exactly the same thing. I'm going to try and stick to the 7:30 just so that I've got a decided time, and so that it gives me some time to come home and just relax a little bit, hopefully. Um, and it seems to be just kind of a sweet spot of going from 7:30 to about 9:30. Not too early, not too late. It just works out fine. But I do go on. Um, yeah, if you wish to join me tomorrow, I will be playing Final Fantasy V. I'm pretty well through that game. Hopefully, we'll be beating it soon, and we'll have a conversation about what comes next. Usually, I play games that end in 4, like Final Fantasy 4, Fantasy Star 4, Breath of Fire 4, Mega Man 4. There's more I could list, but those are the games I've been playing. But I never played Final Fantasy V, and I wanted to beat it, and I'm very close to doing so. Closer than I've ever been. Anyways, I'll be doing that Tuesdays and Thursdays, generally speaking, from about 8:30 to 10:30 Mountain Standard Time. All the times I've mentioned are Mountain Standard. But there we go. Thank you all for being here. And like I like to say at the end of every one of my streams, God, if I could talk, every one of my streams, I plan and play games for you. Good night, everyone.